Welcome to the Creative Writing Podcast. The theme of this episode is poison. You'll need a pen and paper or the notes app on your phone or a blank screen. The first few minutes will be a writing warm-up. Then I'll talk a little bit about why I chose the topic and why it's interesting for writers. And then we'll get to the main writing exercise. During the writing exercises, I'll speak about every 2 to 5 minutes to give you a chance to concentrate. And towards the end of the main exercise, I'll give you an opportunity to press pause so you can carry on writing for a little bit longer if you like. Then I'll invite you to reflect on the work you've created during the workshop. We'll start with a writing exercise. And remember, the only thing we're doing at the moment is warming up. This will only take us about 5 minutes. I'd like you to draw on your own experience for this writing warm-up and just write what comes to mind from the phrase, the best compliment I ever received. So once again, it's about 5 minutes and you're going to write about the best compliment you have ever received. And if that writing prompt is a little bit of a struggle or you haven't quite got going yet, I'd like you just to write down a compliment for yourself right now. Or if you work with a character all the time, maybe think about a good compliment for them if you have a main character that you're working on. And in the last minute of the warm-up, you might want to write about something you wish people would compliment you more on. Like your choice of socks, or how good you are at making tea. What's something you wish, an element of your life where you wish there were a few more compliments? And now you can bring that little writing warm up. You can finish your sentence, bring that to a close. Or if something's taken flight for you in that and you need a couple more minutes, then just hit pause and come back when you're ready. So the title of this workshop is Poison. And I'd like to spend a few moments thinking about the type of poison that we sometimes encounter in novels. The warm up today might have felt a little bit self-reflection-y or wellnessy or journally, but I did want to do it to keep us firmly in the realm of creative writing. Have a think about what you wished people would compliment you more on, and a good compliment that you've received. And through that lens, have a think about the statements that we make to manipulate people, that kind of poison. So sometimes we manipulate through flattery and encouragement. It can be quite a nice thing to do. We say, oh, I love your dress. What a great shirt you're wearing. Sometimes we tell people that bad things are good in order to get them to accept what they have to do. You know, this is laying great groundwork for your future. This will enable you to get that promotion because it will look like you're doing really well. Sometimes these kind of poisonous statements can take the form of truth and predictions that send people along the wrong path. I've had a number of times in my life when people have said to me, you won't like it. You can take that choice, but it won't work out the way you're expecting. You won't like it when you get there. Sometimes they were right, sometimes they were wrong, but it's a very bold thing to say to someone about making a life decision. Equally and diametrically opposite to that, there's also the idea of temptation. Try it, you might like it. Encouraging people into behaviour or actions that we know might come back to bite them, or trying to push the level of risk that they are comfortable with. I think we've all done that maybe with friends who struggle to get out in the world and take risks. It's easy to try and push them, but is that always necessarily the right thing for them? Maybe they're operating from, where they need to be. A backhanded compliment is always an intriguing way of trying to manipulate someone, and that leads us and the characters we write about into rumours, gossip, and exaggeration. So there are all sorts of ways of communicating that under the surface are actually quite poisonous. And of course, there's also the outright lie told to manipulate someone, especially about another person. Your wife fancies your friend is one of the great ones. And there are comments aimed at our insecurities as well. Things like, oh, have you lost weight? That's a great one. Oh, if you had your hair cut, those kind of things. Especially if we might not be feeling great about it. There are also, there's a really big role in fiction for the innocent mistake. Oh, are you pregnant? You're looking amazing. But the person isn't. But the innocent mistake comes from a very different place from the character who says it. And so we might leave those for another workshop. What we want to explore today is deliberate poison. So we're going to write a scene in which an act of manipulation takes place. Two people are going to meet at a very busy event. I'll give you some options in a moment. And one will try and manipulate the other. So before we start the writing, we're going to make some choices about that scene. Strangers can rarely have a strong enough effect on each other. So for this writing exercise, we're going to choose a relationship. It might be parents and their adult children. It might be siblings, friends, colleagues, or maybe a married couple. And just a kind of warning or a flag, really. If you have a very toxic person in your life who attempts to manipulate you a lot, then you might want to steer away from that for this workshop. Treat this as a place of escape and choose a different type of relationship. Writing can be a good way of examining the feelings, but that little bit of distance also provides you with a bit of emotional safety as well. So if your boss at the moment is absolutely terrible, let's make that scene about something like siblings. So manipulation can also be more powerful when it happens at the worst possible moment. And I'm going to give you some ideas and you can choose from one of these ideas. A big family dinner. I'm sure we've all been to one of those that didn't go quite the way it was expected. Christmas or any other kind of religious holiday can put people under pressure. So can a big pitch at work, or a very important deadline. Or maybe your siblings or friends are out shopping. There are crowds, they're getting tired, or maybe they're traveling. Hen nights and stag nights, reunions and weddings, these can all provide amazing backdrops for this type of manipulation and social kind of one-upmanship. If you write fantasy, then you might want to set this on the edges of an enormous battle. If you write any kind of SF, a moment of discovery, just to add a little bit of pressure. And now, before I set you writing, I'm going to invite you to choose your poison. So at the moment, you should have a relationship written down and you should have an event. Now we're going to choose your poison. You could choose to work with flattery and encouragement for this scene. You might want to experiment with a character telling another that a bad thing is actually good, when they know that they're embellishing the truth, if not outright lying. You might want to try and send someone on the wrong path. You won't like it. Or you might want to explore temptation. Try it, you might like it. Or you might be in the realm of backhanded compliments, rumours, gossip, and exaggeration. Let's allow these two characters that you're going to write about to warm themselves up in your writing. So they're going to see each other at this event, this big thing that's going on. But I'd like you to start your writing with something stopping them from speaking straight away. So maybe they're involved in another conversation and they see their brother enter the room. Or maybe they're struggling with the printer when their boss walks into her office. So start from that distance and then one will approach the other. And I'll give you 5 or so minutes just to work on that element of it. And if that's taken off for you, then feel free to ignore me. But if you have been mostly in the realm of dialogue so far, then maybe pause and make sure the reader has a vivid picture of these two people. We can take a bit of physical description. And if you haven't made it into any dialogue yet, then just set yourself the challenge in the next couple of moments of starting that conversation between them. And if that's taken off for you, then do ignore this prompt. But if you're struggling to get the scene established or find some pace, then why don't you briefly add a third character into this conversation? It could be someone important to both your character and their manipulating antagonist, or perhaps it's just a waiter or a passing colleague. But you could briefly interrupt them to give yourself a chance to restart what's going on between them. And once again, if you are having a great time, then ignore this prompt. If you're stuttering a bit, then I want you to really get inside the mind of one of your characters. Do they know that they're being manipulated? Are they suspicious of the things that are being told? Are they having a moment of innocence that your reader will understand might become problematic in the future? So if you need that prompt, you can leave the physical description, leave the conversation, and get right inside somebody's head. And now we're coming to the end of the time we have for that exercise. If you would like to keep writing, then press pause now. You can take as much time as you need. And if you're still with me, then you can bring your current sentence or idea to a close. Sometimes at the end of an exercise like this, if I don't have time to develop ideas, but I have ideas in my head, then I just write a few extra bullet points, keywords to remind myself of how I might develop this the next time I come back to it. And that might be flashback to the hen night, or flashback to the job interview, or suddenly the building is on fire. And that might be a huge, long scene or massive internal monologue. So if this has sparked anything like that for you, then just quickly note it down. And then take a few moments to read back through what you've done and analyze your own work a little bit. Did any of these characters surprise you in any way? Are you surprised about whose side you ended up on? So it can be very delicious and fun to write a manipulative and villainous character. Perhaps you started out with a very innocent protagonist, but everything you have on the page is leading you to the idea that it was actually your more manipulative character that might have a little bit more to say and discover about themselves. Sometimes with an exercise like this, particularly that's set in a big scene with lots of background characters, one of those characters will suddenly interest us. Who is the man with the red bow tie who caught somebody's eye standing by a window? Those characters that creep in at the periphery can be really interesting to go back and examine. Or perhaps the situation is somewhere you would want to return to in another writing session, but with different characters or from a different angle. So yeah, it's always interesting to me just to jot down, if I had another 9 or 10 hours, what would I carry on writing about if I had endless amounts of writing energy? And then when you're reading back, again, this is for writing exercises. What I like to do is grab a different coloured pen, or a highlighter if you're working on screen, and find the bits of description or the lines of dialogue that really tickled you, that made you proud. You've created a beautiful image. You've used language really well to help the reader understand, their inner thoughts or your character's opinion of the world around them. And what that means is when you're flicking back through your notebooks as a writer, what is jumping out at you is things that you liked. You can do that with the warm-up exercise as well. And maybe there'll be phrases in there where you think, oh, okay, I'm going to leave this writing exercise, but I'm going to take that phrase and I'm going to drop it into another piece of work because it's a good phrase, and it sparked something else in me. So you'll have noticed as well that in this podcast, there were a lot of options that I went through. So this is one where in a few days you can go back to the beginning, you can listen to some of those options again. And if you wrote about siblings at a wedding, then you can do, colleagues at the big pitch presentation. So this is one that you should be able to do quite a few times, choosing different types of manipulation and poisonous conversation. I hope very much that you had fun, and I'll see you for the next episode.